Hello there, it's me again, Rob Value. I thought it would be interesting to make a video about scepticism. This is something I think is very important, something I've been meaning to write about on my website, but I've got all these thoughts going around in my head about it. I thought I'd just make a little video. So, what is scepticism and why is it important? Well, scepticism is about only believing things when you've got a good reason to believe them. Now, if someone comes up to you and tells you something, just states something, whatever, someone's stolen your car, or I'm going to the shops, anything you like, okay? You've got two options you can take. So when someone tells you something, you can either believe it straight away, no matter what it is, or you can choose to not believe it right away and then consider the evidence and decide whether you believe it or not. So those are the two choices. So if we go with the first choice, anytime anyone tells us anything, we believe it. That's called being gullible, and very few people would behave this way. I hope you would agree that. For one thing, you'd be extremely vulnerable. You could be conned by anybody, and also you're going to end up with a lot of contradictory beliefs very quickly, because people are going to tell you different things that don't add up. Some of them will be true, some won't, and you've got to somehow believe all of them. So that doesn't make any sense. Now, sadly, there might be some people who, due to mental illness of some kind, really are that gullible and they can't help it. But for most people, they don't believe everything everyone tells them. So, using the other position, you assume you don't make a judgment about it until you've heard the evidence. Okay, so it brings to the second point: is do you care about your beliefs being true? If someone tells you something, do you care if it's true or not? Well, again, that's up to you. If you don't care whether things are true or not, or your beliefs are true, then I'm not going to help you very much. But I'd say it's important for your beliefs to be true, because your beliefs inform your actions. What you truly believe will determine how you act in any given situation. So it will affect not only you, but everyone around you, your family, your friends, and to a lesser extent, everyone around you in society. If, for example, you believe that if you shoot someone in the head, they go straight to heaven, and you're doing them a favour, then that's a very harmful belief to hold. If you truly believe that, and you go, right, so I'm doing everyone a favour by shooting them in the head. So that belief is unfounded, and you're hurting people. So, it would be a lot better if you didn't hold that belief. Now, another thing to mention is absolute certainty. This is a red herring. It's irrelevant. There is no such thing as absolute certainty. You just can't have it in reality, but it's not possible. Because no matter what, there's always a chance that you've somehow got everything wrong, everyone's got everything wrong, or what you think is real isn't real, or you're having a mental breakdown, you're having a dream, anything you like, okay, there's no such thing as an absolute certainty. All you can say is beyond reasonable doubt, okay? So when I'm talking about things being true, I'm only talking about beyond reasonable doubt. To expect absolute certainty is stupid, because if you never made any decision until you had absolute certainty, you'd never do anything. You'd spend your whole life researching about the next decision you're going to make. Shall I eat a piece of toast or not? You'd have to spend your whole life researching. Cannot be absolutely certain that eating this piece of toast isn't going to kill me. And it's ridiculous. You can't be that way. So what you're looking for is a reasonable degree of confidence. You could say 99% or whatever. And how confident you've got to be, or you should be, depends on what the belief is, depends on what the claim is. Now, I'd say there's two criteria that decide how sure you should be about something, depending on what it is in question. The first criteria is how extraordinary it is. How does it relate to what you know already? So you can have very mundane claims on going to the shops. Okay, that's a very, very mundane claim. It's not extraordinary. it's something that's happened a lot before. It doesn't require any kind of other assumptions. So, that's a very low-level claim. If someone's saying, I'm flying to Paris tomorrow, that's still mundane, but a little bit less so. That's not the kind of thing that happens every day. And, you may have reasons to think that the person is joking or isn't serious or is making it up for some other reason. It's possible. It's more likely that it isn't true because it's a little bit more out of the ordinary. If they say, I'm going to Paris and I'm going to be made President of France, that's even more extraordinary. This is something that doesn't happen a lot, and for you to actually believe the person, you're going to require more evidence, or you should do. If you just say, okay, yeah, fine, you are, then that's being gullible. And if you believe that level of claim with next to no evidence except someone saying so, you're going to run into problems very quickly. Okay, itchy head. Okay, what was I saying? Right. So that's one criteria. And, if you take it to the extreme, if you say, I've got a dragon in my garage, now we're talking absolutely ridiculous claims. We're talking about something that's never even been shown to exist, that, you probably, you won't have seen in your whole life, yet here I am saying I've got one in my garage. So your level of scepticism should reflect how extraordinary the claim is, because the more extraordinary it is, the more likely it is to not be true for one reason or another. Now, the second criteria, from an everyday point of view, this isn't just from a scientific point of view, but from a personal point of view, is how important is the claim? How much does it matter to you? How much does it matter to the world as such? Okay. Now, if someone says to you, I'm going to the shops, how important is it to believe that that's true? It's not that important, is it? I mean, say my wife said I'm going to the shops. There's an outside chance, for whatever reason, she could be lying about that, or confused, or mistaken, or anything. But does it matter? Not really. She might be going somewhere else. And if so, she'd probably tell me about it later. So I've got no reason to think that it's of any importance, really, whether, it's true or not. So there's no need to grill her over it, demand evidence, demand receipts afterwards, because it's just not that important. If your wife says, your wife, what are we talking about, your wife? My wife says, I'm going to hand over all of our money to someone because they've kidnapped my father, then it's like, well, that's really important. For one thing, your father's been kidnapped and you're going to give them all our money. I'm going to need some evidence that this is true. Even though you're telling me, I'm going to want to see some evidence. I'm not just going to go along with this. So the more important it is, the more evidence you should demand. Because you've only got a limited amount of time every day, and in your life you can't investigate every claim and everything that happens to the nth degree. You just haven't got the time. So you have to decide at what point you think, okay, I've investigated this enough, or I'm happy with this. And, for unimportant claims, you don't need to investigate them at all, to be honest. If someone says to me, I've got a dragon in my garage, is that important to me? Well, not really. If he says I've got a dragon in my garage and I'm going to release it and it's going to kill everyone, okay, yeah, that is important. But because it's so unlikely, I've got no reason to think it's important unless they start providing evidence. Or, one of my relatives says they're going to spend a load of money on a car, and I think it's a bad car or something. I could advise them against it, but again, I don't need to provide for them to provide loads of evidence for it because it's not that important to me. It's their decision. So there are two criteria: how unlikely is it, and how important is it? So obviously, this is going to come around to science and religion. Now, I would agree that, I hope you would agree, most people act like I've been saying. Most people work on claims in that way. But when it comes to religion, or their religion, suddenly it all changes. Now, how extraordinary are the claims of religion? They're about as extraordinary as you can get. We're talking about gods usually. Most people can't even tell me what a god is meant to be. It's that extraordinary. They wouldn't know it. If it came and poked them in the eye, they wouldn't know what it was. They wouldn't be able to pick it out from a lineup. I know some people claim to see it all the time and stuff, but I think they're either just got a very vivid imagination or they've actually got mental health problems. So, what was I saying? Yeah. So it's an extremely extraordinary claim. We're talking about the origins of the universe usually. We're talking about having a soul or something like that, continuing life after death, what happens after death. These are all incredibly extraordinary claims. They're not supported by science, they're not supported by everyday experience. So the level of evidence you'd expect to back these up should be absolutely extraordinary, to think that these are anything other than imaginary things, or people just making stuff up. Now, how important is it? Well, if you're going to base your life around religion, if you're going to give money to the church, if you're going to spend a significant amount of time worshipping this God, whatever it is, if you're going to make decisions based around it, then it's very important. If you're going to persecute homosexuals because of it, then it's very important. If you're going to refuse to marry someone because of it, it's very important. So religion generally does have a big impact on someone's life, you know, unless they're a really, really, really liberal religious person, it does have a big impact on them. So if it's going to have this much of impact on you and everyone around you, then I would say it's of, you know, very big importance. So we've got extraordinary claims and of great importance generally, or at least a lot of importance. So the level of evidence you should require to actually believe these things should be very high. I hope that makes sense. Now, what evidence have we got? Almost nothing. We've got a bunch of books,